Please proceed.
Only 5 minutes though.
There we go. Okay. Thank you all for coming. I expect that the Miami contingent will be here mañana, but I think it's time we need to get started. Let me introduce myself. To those of you who don't know me, my name's Ted Koenigsberg. I'm the president of Infinity Commercial Real Estate in Dade County. We're a South Florida commercial real estate brokerage firm, and in my spare time, I'm a board member and the scholarship chair of the Florida chapter of the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors, which you all know as SIOR. I really do appreciate the attendance. We've got some pretty good firepower in this room. Ed Redlick, who's the, wave Ed, who's the president of the SIOR Florida chapter. We've got Adam Von Romer, I see, who runs CCIM for Broward. I think Terry Stiles escaped, but it was really good knowing he was in there. There he is. I'm old. My good friend and partner, John Dahm, is here. John's the chairman of the board of the Miami Association of Realtors, which is now the largest local board in the world. He's also past president of the commercial division, has an executive position on the board of governors of the National Association of Realtors, as well as being chairman of the state's Commercial Alliance Committee. Although he has an office next to me, I don't see him very much. Mary Claire, one of our board members that came down from Tampa. Christy, another board member from Tampa. Of course, we've got Dr. Forgy. Dr. Forgy is the director of the Master of Science in Real Estate Development here at the Wayne Huizinga School of Business. And this competition would not have been possible without him. He really deserves a round of applause for his commitment to the students. Mañana has come. I'd also ask you to welcome Todd Watson of DCT. Todd, please. Todd is the regional VP for DCT Industrial Trust, and he oversees the leasing, acquisition, and development activities for DCT Industrial's Central and South Florida portfolios, millions of square feet. One of Todd's new developments was the subject of this year's competition, and Todd will shortly familiarize you with the project. Todd, thanks for stepping up. Great project. I'm going to ask any of the students that competed in this to please stand up. These guys are the stars of this little event of ours. Guys, your analysis of the project, the research you conducted in areas such as construction, trade agreements, the flow of products in and out of Florida, the type of products expected to flow in and out of Florida in the future, and how those products would be stored, processed, and transported. You considered marketing, financial metrics, construction costs, and even material handling equipment. Your research was exemplary. Your suggestions were insightful and surprisingly creative. And it's been my honor to coordinate the SIOR Florida Challenge Grant on behalf of SIOR and the SIOR Foundation. SIOR was born in 1939. One of our first tasks was to assist the War Department in locating plant space for the production of defense materials. Over 200 brokers across the United States and Canada assisted the government in procuring factory space needed to support our soldiers. We now have more than 3,000 members in over 630 cities in 34 countries, and represent the most knowledgeable, experienced, and successful commercial real estate brokerage specialists. In a survey conducted during the depressed real estate market between 2008 and 2012, the average SIOR member leased or sold 1 million square feet with a total dollar volume of $31 million. Imagine what the average is in this real estate market. As to the SIOR Foundation, it was established in 1962. Its initial task was to publish the industry's very first graduate-level textbook on industrial real estate. Over the years, it's promoted and funded programs that advance the real estate profession through educational partnerships, scholarships, critical research projects, publishing and development of curricula, and professional development for practitioners. The scholarships in particular have empowered deserving students who could not otherwise afford to study at the college or graduate level in real estate-related fields, and it's helped to bring new generations of professionals into our industry. Future plans include an annual $10 million endowment to allow us to offer full scholarships, create endowed real estate chairs at accredited universities, build a new research department, create industry standards, and increase funds for community programs. The SIOR Foundation is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization that accepts charitable contributions which are tax deductible for income, estate, and gift tax purposes. They partnered with the SIOR Florida chapter in funding the $10,000 Challenge Grant Award. And they've promised us to do this in the future, again. A few words about Todd before he shows you the subject matter of this competition. He received his Juris Doctorate from the University of Florida and a BS from Florida State. Before joining DCT, he worked for Liberty Property Trust and Lincoln Property Company. He's the past chairman of the Orlando Downtown South Redevelopment Corporation and an active member of the Florida Bar and NIAP. He's also one of the most creative real estate professionals I've had the pleasure to work with. Todd,
yeah.
It's your podium.
Thank you, I don't know that's a high bar to be the most creative guy in industrial real estate, right? Design interesting cubes for a living. Let me, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to tell you quickly about the project, just location, and I think that the challenge we gave them, but Doctor, you're going to spell out what the challenge given to them.
And actually what we're going to do is we're going to show the video of the winning team.
Yeah, so I'll just, maybe what I'll do is tell you about the project and just kind of give you quickly some of the insights I got out of participation in this event. It was incredible, folks. So, just real quick, to Ted's credit, everybody needs to thank him. Was not really, he called me, told me about the challenge. I said, that sounds interesting. How's this really going to help me? So we started talking and talking. Ted's the kind of guy who pulled back the different layers and showed me there's some real value. And indeed, how bad am I? I'm the guy with the phone on. Anyway, in my own speech. I should just leave right now, but I'll stay.
It could be a tenant.
Exactly. Trust me, I'm not their friend right now. No, but the point is incredible, and I think this speaks to another thing in everyday life that we do, and that is you just go down the road. Ted's like, just hear me out. Go down the road. I've got my own life. I'm going down this road. I don't want to get involved in any other thing. And so, credit to Ted. What came out of this, I feel, was part of me that I'd forgotten too. We all go to school, you forget about it and move on. It's really fun to go back, watch what they came up with, because there wasn't a whole lot of coaching, and see what they saw. And I think it also speaks to looking at things with a fresh set of eyes. So just don't stop challenging yourself is what I got out of this. And I thoroughly enjoyed the process. Some great things came out of it, and I'll speak to that too. Let me tell you about the project, because everybody probably knows about it now. Now, since I've been at DCT, I've only been around since I've been there 5 years, so long enough to make some mistakes, right? And so you can't see this very well because it's being hit. So let me just hold it right here. Everybody knows, and I should have come with better aids, but you'll see the.
There's actually a map of that in the packet.
There's a map in the packet, but if anybody can see, really kind of Airport West, here's the airport, you've got the Dolphin, the Turnpike, this is obviously Okeechobee, so just west. So it's right next to Beacon Lakes, kind of, right? Should I talk about my competitors? Why not, right? So the Beacon Lakes project that is just west of the Turnpike off of 25th in Miami. We were fortunate enough a few years ago in 11 to kind of didn't know the market. So, you know, there are some correlations you can say. I didn't know the Miami market all that well. It just started. And it's fun, you know, you come into market and see things others don't. Saw some land, bought a 14-acre piece of property, put 2 buildings on it, leased them up, pre-leased them, frankly. And, you know, home run. It's not that easy anymore. But after that, just kind of speaking to opening your mind up, there's a broker, a residential broker approached me about 3 years ago, said, the urban development boundary is going to get expanded. Okay. Kept calling me. And finally said, okay, fine, I'll meet you for lunch. You can try to talk me into it. And kind of explain the process, and oh, that made sense. So a day after the urban development boundary finally got approved, and everybody saw it in the paper, and every broker in Miami, which should have been doing this, started calling all the landowners, and I was already under contract on 28 acres. And I just got on a contract like that day. So, phew. Anyway, so some would say way west, but really, frankly, that's where all the development's going. So got lucky, got this property under contract, and then just real quick, if anybody can see this, and next time I'll bring my better visual aids, but it's Turnpike over here. This is 137th. This is the Dolphin. And so again, two projects. This is all of Beacon Lakes that Prologis has. We're purchasing, we haven't closed yet. How do you like that? I've been under contract for 1.5 years, gotten all the zoning and everything else, and still have not had to carry it. So just pays to be that one day ahead of the urban development boundary expansion. But anyway, had to rezone it and everything else. We'll close in 2 months, about, a little less than that. But anyway, you can see. So we've somehow found a way to get in there and find a little, be competitive. So for us, kind of 1-1. You'll see this. This is the larger, and to put it, can you let go for a second, Ted? Sure. And to kind of accurately, Palmetto. This is north this way. So again, this is a site plan. So that's all we gave the students at that point, site plans. When Ted and I talked about it, I think the whole thought was, is there some segment of the market we're not missing? I think you're going to hear the presentation. I would tell you there's some other things that came out of them that may not have been ideas that nobody's thought of, but frankly, it's ideas that maybe you've heard before and you go, that makes sense, going at it with a fresh set of eyes. And so I tell you, what came out of this, there were 3 teams. Everybody had incredible thoughts, and we're going to talk about the conclusions at the end a little bit more.
Sure.
So that's the setup, folks. What do I do with this property? I think it's good. I think I have a plan. Run it by these 3 teams of students and see if they can come up with some better ideas about design, but mainly how do we market, how do we get an advantage over some of my competitors and win. That's it. So I'll come back up and give some conclusions.
Okay. Don't worry, you don't have to listen to me pontificate for long at all. Todd, thanks. We're now going to view the winning team presentation, right? And then Dr. Forgy will be opening the floor to questions and comments. And he's going to run this part of the presentation. By the way, it's not Fred's first time at the rodeo. He's directed real estate programs at the University of Texas at Arlington and Texas A&M University. Served on the faculty at the University of Auckland, New Zealand, University of Texas at Austin, University of North Texas. He's also served as the professor of real estate for Oryx Capital Markets in Dallas. Fred, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and just jump right into the video of the student presentation, and then after we complete the video is about, looks like 19 minutes. After the video is done, then we're going to open it up for question and answer session here. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Taking time today to hear our presentation. I'm Alex Woolick, and these are my two colleagues,
Alyssa Schachter
and Dustin Anderson. And we've taken on the role as market consultants, along with our other team members who've helped us put this presentation together, to really get out and analyze the DCT site, specifically figuring out what the tenant demands are, what the local market is looking for, and what the competing properties are offering. And when we went through that analysis, we came up with a list of recommendations to help differentiate the site. Those recommendations are a 32-foot, 8-inch clear ceiling height and 54-foot wide column spacing, the ESFR sprinklers, LED lighting, divisible tenant spaces up to 25,000 feet, a cold storage ready building, as well as a number of other features. And the specific tenants that we're going to go after is freight forwarders and distribution centers and cold storage and refrigerated space users. And what we wanted to do was convey to you our thought process, because when we were initially tasked with this, we thought there were a number of features out there that could really easily be incorporated into a building that would help differentiate it. And one of those is like a 36-foot ceiling height or a LEED certified building. But then we quickly realized that it's driven by market, and this market specifically, the tenants aren't asking for that. Through a number of brokers that we interviewed, as well as we ended up being brought back down to earth when we realized that the construction costs are not feasible when you look at some of those features. So what we're going to do now is take you through our thought process of why these recommendations work and what we found through our market analysis, building features, and what makes it, in the end, financially feasible for the site.
So moving forward, we're going to go over really quickly some of the market trends. Currently, there are over 500 million square feet of rentable building area in the industrial market in Florida. That number is up 0.85% from last year, and it's already been absorbed and some. Can you absorb 1.8%? They can't build as fast as these places are being occupied. Additionally, vacancy in Florida is 8.9%, while in South Florida it's down to 7.9%. So we're below the state average. This is in part due to the fact that we have the seaport and the airport, two main factors in our market. I'm going to talk about some tenants that we would suggest that you go after. The first is the flight to quality tenants. There are a lot of Class B and C tenants who are now looking to move to Class A space. At first they see $9.50 a square foot, an average rate, and they say, we can't do this, it doesn't make sense. Then, they're paying $7.50, they have 22-foot clears, but they can move to 32-foot clears. This allows them to get the same 1,000 pallets down from 10,000 square feet to around 6,200 square feet. They end up saving money at the end of the day, and when they see they can get to the Class A space, that's what they want to do. Next are going to be the distribution centers and freight forwarders. I mentioned earlier that the seaport and the airport we have here, they're both going through major capital improvements. They expect that the TEU units, as well as the cargo coming in through both, are going to increase over the next 20 years, and they're trying to build a sustainable way to do that. On a conservative note, they expect the port to go from about 1.5 million 1.5 times what they're currently at right now, to as much as 3 times what they're currently at in the next 20 years. With little space to expand and prices going up, your site is just going to become more valuable. The last suggestion we have is the refrigerated storage users. We know that the upfront cost is high, but you're going to get a $3 to $3.50 per square foot rent premium on this. Coming into the airport alone is $900 million in seafood and right around $900 million in flowers. They're looking to move into the Class A refrigerated cold space, and there isn't a lot out there. In Airport West, we need more of this, and so one of our suggestions, which Alex is going to explain how it financially makes sense, is to go with a cold storage building. Really quickly, I'd like to just show this is the industrial submarket map. We're going to focus in on Airport West, which is where your site is located, Airport North, and then Medway. Location-wise, they're very competitive. You're close to the airport, you're close to the seaport, and you're close to all the major highways. When you take a look, occupancy at Airport West is actually the lowest. So what you have to factor into this as a key indicator is the fact that Airport West also has the most that's come to market. So in the next few years, it's going to balance itself out. These numbers will increase. Medley has the next lowest of the occupancy rates, but it also has the next most square footage that is coming to market or has come to market. The last key indicator I really want to focus in on is rent. So the rent in Airport West averages $821. This factors in Class B and C space, so keep in mind that's why the number's low. But it is higher than the average in Airport North and Medley because the demand is there. This is where people want to be. It's a great location, and we're going to talk really quickly about your direct competitors in the market right now. So Miami International is going at about $850 a square foot. Flagler is around the same at $850. Airport Logistics is at $895. South Florida Logistics is going at about $10 a square foot. Translogic Center is going between $1020 and $1045. I'm sorry. And then Beacon Lakes, which is our closest competitor, is going at $950. We're going to talk about how we're going to differentiate your site from Beacon Lakes, but we're going to suggest you go in right around that price.
Good morning, I'm Dustin Anderson. Today we're talking about the DCT Commerce Center. And this site is a 23.5 acre site, and it consists of 3 separate buildings totaling 425,000 square feet. What we did is we really wanted to find out the construction features with the competition that was out there and the differentiating factors that we can apply to this property. And we used market research, we interviewed brokers, and we also interviewed contractors that specialize in tilt wall construction. So on the standard construction features, we looked at the competing properties. We looked at the Prologis Airport West, the Airport Logistics Park, Flagler Station, and the Miami International Trade Port. And what we found is these are all standard features. These are the must-haves to be competitive in the marketplace. And there's a few that we're going to highlight here and we're going to talk more about. The ones that we're going to talk about is column spacing, the clear ceiling heights, as well as the truck boards. Now the column spacing is important to consider. In all the Class B and C, the older product, the old column spacing is 30 by 40 foot. The new standard is 54 by 50. This is going in all the new Class A product with the 60-foot speed bay in the back. And the important feature of this is just the efficiency of the building and the capacity of the cubic feet of storage that you can put in the building. By going with the bigger column spacing, you're eliminating columns in the building, and you're also narrowing the aisles for the racking systems, enabling you to get more cargo space. Just like the column spacing, increasing the efficiency of the building, the ceiling height does the same thing. This graph up here shows the differences of the pallet racks used in the market and the differences with the ceiling height. The most common pallet rack in the market is a 64-inch tall pallet rack. That's 50% of the market uses that. The other 50% is divided between the 72-inch height and the 56-inch height. On a 30-foot ceiling, the 56-inch pallets can stack 5 high. Same with the 64, and only 4 high on the 72. By taking the ceiling height up to 32'8" clear, and what a clear ceiling height means is that the lowest section of the roof is 32 foot clear. The highest section would be, that's the lowest point in the building. It goes higher from there. So by increasing the ceiling height by 2 foot 8 inches, you're able to get 20% more capacity in the building, of cubic foot capacity of storage space of the other 50% of the market. The other thing we looked at too was, right now in the marketplace, 75% of the tenants are looking at 30-foot clear ceiling heights. And we want to capture that missing 25% in the market to get capture 100% by going to the 32-foot 8 clear. So that's our recommendation for the DC building structure. The other thing we wanted to take a look at is the divisible space. The importance of the divisible space is if we can attract smaller tenants, we can get a higher rental rate. And this is just an example to show you how you can divide the spaces, either into equally partitioned spaces, and the minimum divisible space for the DCT building, that's 540 feet long, is going to be just under 26,000 square feet. You can divide these evenly, or you can get creative, and if the tenant only needs 4 doors, which would be 1 bay, you could do an L shape, and that would provide another tenant with, say, 12 doors and 3 bays. So you can get creative with the placement of your tenants. The other important thing that we're recommending is to build 2 spec office spaces in each corner of the building. And the reason why it's important for the spec office space is really twofold. First, it gives the tenants coming in a sense of space. They can picture themselves in the office, they can see what the fit out looks like, and the other important feature is that it's permitted, the permits are already pulled. So we leave the permits open, the tenants can move in, they don't have that time lag of getting the new permits, they can fit out the office space a little bit differently, and then close out the permits, but it makes it more efficient with the permitting process. This is probably, I think, one of the most important features of the building. And when we surveyed brokers, we asked them all, what were the 3 hot button issues that tenants were requiring or requesting when they were speaking to them. And the first was access, the second was price, and the third was truck works. And the important things from truck works is that it's the efficiencies of them and the accessibility of the truck works. Most of the product online and the competition, and I'll go through the different ones. The Prologis Airport West, 45% of their buildings have private truck works. Airport Logistic Park, 39%. Flagler Station, they're building 1.5 million feet, and only 17% is private truck works. And the Miami International Trade Port, 14% private truck works. And you wonder why these developers, if they know this is such an important issue, why aren't they all putting in private truck works? And really it has to do with maximizing the site, the building site, and the footprint. It's more, it's an easier layout to have shared truck works than private. And what the tenants like about the private truck work is 2 things. One, it gives them control. So they can have, they can fence it off, it's more security, and they have control over the traffic coming in and out. The second is productivity. During peak unloading and loading times, that truck work gets very busy. And if you're competing with multiple tenants to get trucks and cargo in and out, it can slow the process down. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is the position on the property and the frontage opportunities that we have on the 36 Expressway. Now, this is the extension of the expressway. It doesn't get the traffic volume that the Turnpike or the east section of the Dolphin gets, but nevertheless, it is on the expressway. And this is an important marketing feature that differentiates this property with the other properties in the Airport West submarket. And it gives the ability for the tenants to have visibility.
The other component that we found, and we reached out to brokers as a differentiating factor, was institutional ownership. And where this comes into play is the ability for an institution to grow with its tenants. So again, we're targeting the smaller, maybe 25,000 square foot users. However, most of them are looking to expand and grow their businesses. And with an institutional ownership, you can convey that message. You can say that, as you grow, we're going to be able to offer you more square feet. We're in every market. And the other component that institutional ownership brings is really a quality in the building. It's not something that it's going to be constructed and flipped. It's more something that you're going to put in the quality features up front and own the building long term. And tenants actually put a premium on that. They know that that landlord is going to be there for them when they need it. So that's another factor that we really think is an important marketing component. Now to get into some of the financial feasibility components, These were some of the differentiating factors that brought a significant cost into the project. Cold storage is the first one that I have up here, and what we decided to market with the property as a recommendation is one of the buildings, the first building at 135,000 square feet, we want to market as cold storage ready. And what that means is it's a box-in-box construction, and it costs about $50 a square foot in the build-out. And that offers tenants coming in at any size to do the build-out for them. Depending on their credit worthiness, it's going to back into a $3.50 rent premium, which is in line with the market, and it's something that, again, differentiates the building and allows it to lease up quicker than if it was a typical space. The other component is LED lighting. This was something that we have not found in any of the really competing properties, but it's a definite differentiating factor on the grounds that it's tenant savings. Because the only component that we found that tenants pay on the rents is the direct separately metered electric. The LED lighting is in here a construction cost per square foot of $1 as a premium. However, the incremental cost over T5 lighting is only 25 cents. So it relates back to a 5% rent premium if you wanted to charge it to the tenant, but a lot of what we found is if you market that as tenant savings, you're going to get more tenants because, again, you're expressing an interest in helping them save money, as well as adding a higher quality lighting to your building. The other feature is the ceiling heights. And when we looked at the costs in ceiling heights, we looked at going from a 30-foot standard clear to a 32-foot 8-inch, and a 30-foot to a 36-foot clear. What we found, as Dustin had clearly broken out with the pallet racking, is the 32-8 makes a lot of sense with the racking configurations in the market. What we found also is a 36-foot could have a lot of advantage with the stacking. The cost, though, to go to 36-foot clear does not justify making that recommendation to you. And the main reason is when you go up to the 36-foot clear, we have in here additional construction costs of $1.35. It may be even a little higher than that because you have to upgrade your sprinkler systems. It's not just the tilt wall and the extra steel. You also have to pour more of a slab down. And on top of that, which doesn't get factored into this 135, is the equipment there. You're going to have special forklifts to be able to rack up to 36 feet. So what we found again was not only was it not financially justifiable to go to 36, but tenants aren't demanding that yet in the market. The other component that we wanted to break out was the minimum divisibility of the space. What that comes down to is a $2.31 rent premium, and that breaks down to construction costs with a 16 cents rent and premium. What that means is every time we put up a demising wall, it's going to be $250 a foot to put it in, linear feet. And to go across the building to separately divide the space, it's going to be $2.31 per square foot premium on the 25,000 square feet tenant space. So when we take all these features and incorporate them into a pro forma analysis, which is our next slide, what it equates to is, I'll focus on the bottom here, it's a 7% yield on your cost. And where I want to highlight that is up on the top in yellow, which the pro forma has been sent to you. With the building, we added in the 60-cent rent premium for the ceiling heights, the LED lighting, the cold storage build-out for one entire building, as well as the breakdown on rents. We did the $3.50 rent premium for the cold storage, and the 16-cent rent premium for the minimum divisible space, as tenants require the smaller space of 25,000 square feet, they're willing to pay that additional 16-cent premium. And we have our market expenses, which include property tax, insurance, electric, as well as a management fee, janitorial, and the security that's going to help the site differentiate itself with the 24-hour security monitoring. So again, to conclude with our final recommendations on the site, the 32-8-foot clear ceiling height with the wider column spacing, the sprinkler system, and the LED lighting are going to be the differentiating factors, as well as going after the smaller tenants in the market and the cold storage tenants. So those are our final recommendations. We really would like to have a follow-up conversation with analysis of our financial costs as well as our market analysis, and we really appreciate you taking the time to hear our presentation and giving us the opportunity to look at your site and to learn more about this market. Thank you.
All right, what we'd like to do now is go ahead and invite the students to sort of congregate over here, and then Todd, if you wouldn't mind coming up here. Sure. And what we can do is kind of just open it up for general sort of question and answer session from the audience to kind of delve into some of the issues that were raised during the presentation. So I guess to sort of start off, I'll just throw a softball question to the students. So what was, I guess, the most, I guess, advantageous part of this from the learning experience aspect?
You want to take that one?
I think for me, my background is in an industrial, and it was kind of great to just jump in the water and learn everything about all the different facets, whether it's financial, who the tenants are, what the market is, and what the difference between, you know, the different submarkets of industrial in South Florida are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
To build off that, I could add one thing to that, was working as a team. So to really break out everyone's strengths and see what some people are better at. Some people, you know, could pick up the phone, which is what I benefited the most from. And just to have a conversation with a broker, I felt that I was learning more than, you know, we would read 300, 400 pages of a report, and then we'd have a 10-minute phone call, and I'd come back with one-page summary, and everyone would be like, oh, now it makes sense, now it clicks. So to me, that was really it, you know, being able to pull out that, extract it on your strengths and weaknesses, and working as a team. That was a lot of fun.
Well, first of all, I have to disclose that I have a disadvantage. I was an adjunct professor of real estate studies at FAU for 6 semesters, and I did projects like this every semester for the final project, so I may be a little more critical than just a normal real estate person. But my questions deal with the economics, and part of this might be directed at Todd and part of the students. I noticed that in the additional cost for the amenities, you might say, you solved to a 7% return. Why wouldn't you have found out what the market is willing to pay, for example, for refrigerated, and then work at how high a return you could get out of it? In other words, if the market was willing to pay $5 a foot instead of $3.50, and therefore you could have gotten a 12% return, you could have valued for Todd which one of the improvements that you're suggesting had the highest ranking in value. And then the second part of that question might be directed at Todd. If I'm doing my numbers right, you're going to be in this deal for about $50 million. And with the risk that's associated with it, and the risk of lease up and construction costs, and knowing where interest rates might be moving to, I'll solve to a 6 cap rate. The property's got a $58 million valuation when you're done, or it's about a 16% overall return. One, is that where DCT is shooting for? And two, wouldn't you make a higher rate of return just selling the land after you get entitled?
You guys want to answer your analysis?
I can start
to speak to the economics.
We looked at the additional premium that was being charged for the cold storage space, and then we bid out a cold storage build out to a contractor, and we took the price in line with what the market was, and the sweet spot was right around the $350 mark. So I'm not opposed to getting a great broker. I know this room's full of them, and if they can get up to $5, that would be fantastic. But that's how we solved.
It just seemed there was a consistent solve to 7% of cost.
Right. The initial drive off the 7% to cost was when we read through DCT's financials. Typically, what they were backing into was a 6.5 to 7% return on cost. So we were making it work for them, and we knew that they wouldn't be doing it. They would probably just flip the land then if it wouldn't work with what's in line with their portfolio. But you could correct me. I mean, that was a read through earlier.
No, well, my first comment, you know, any freezer cooler deal I've ever seen in town that is literally shell built, right, has involved usually each group contributing dollars. And so so we own some freezer cooler buildings near the airports. Understand that a little bit, and would tell you the premium also varies greatly based on where the market is, right? And so in 2010, maybe the difference between a non-condition versus condition could be anywhere from $1 to $1.50 a foot. I think a $3 premium is very reasonable and even higher right now. And so, you know, some of it's going to be market timing and that sort of thing. Frankly, one of the biggest impacts to the freezer cooler market and in general was not the recession. It was actually the government you know, it was different governments in South America that were changing the way they incentivized different growing operations. And so there was a point where in Colombia they said no more, you know, no more subsidizing this industry, and it caused havoc for about a year and a half, and then everybody consolidated and came back much stronger. So that's, you know, now all of a sudden I got to worry about the economy of Colombia. I can tell you freezer cooler deals are always difficult, right? When you're involved that much money, very specific build out. Let's talk about return. I would tell you, if you're going to look at land and try to go around and buy it and say, I've got to make a return of, you know, X, whether that's 7% or you're looking at it the wrong way. When we look at land, it's got to be, do we want to be in this market long term? Forget making, you know, X% immediately, and do we want to be in it long term? And then do we know what we're doing? So it's almost like a golf shot. When you get ready to even put it under contract, you better have an understanding of your returns, where the market's headed, and how it's accretive to your overall portfolio. So I would never sit there and go, yeah, we could flip out of land tomorrow. Have we ever flipped out of land? Never.
No, that was a theoretical question as well.
Right,
to return,
but that's what I'm saying. When I go in to buy a piece of dirt or put it under contract, I mean, yes, in a 1% scenario, if you're trying to sell it internally, you might say something like that. The reality is when we put something under contract, we're committed.
So really where my question goes to theoretically is this a risk reward, or is this just a we have to be bigger issue?
Oh, yeah. Bigger is not better. I think we all figured that out. Throw too much leverage and you can watch almost any REIT buckle under the pressure. This is about having a great piece of real estate. So, and this is kind of how I look at it. This isn't DCT. When I look at a piece of land or a building, you're either one or the other. You're either thinking about it analytically or you're thinking about it intuitively. Why is this good? I always start with my gut, and I say, I love this piece of real estate. I love this building. It's got potential, and then I force my brain to prove it out. So in this piece of real estate, we knew it was a great piece of real estate. Let's prove to ourselves it makes sense, and that's happened. You know, we'll be closing shortly. Everybody will get to see comps at that time. I really can't talk about that as much, but are we under pressure in South Florida to chase deals? Right? Like, in other words, do I get a call from my chairman, my CEO? No. But I would tell you, we all have goals, and you want to meet them. Miami is the toughest market in my, you know, of course I'm jaded, but toughest market. Why? You've got every major player in the U.S. trying to buy real estate down here, and you're dealing with a market that is really about 225 million, and even less if you start chopping off owner-occupied. Yeah, send me to South. What's that? Yeah,
Memphis is good.
Yeah, send me to California, please. $1 billion+ market. Send me to Chicago, and then give me a bunch of money. I can find a lot more there. Here it's just it's crazy right now. And what you don't see in a lot of those markets is what we kind of call the South American influence, and that is there are people willing to buy real estate here, make no dollars return, just because it's a safe haven, right? So risk capital. Sorry, went on too long.
I've got one. I've obviously had the advantage of seeing all of the team's presentations. And as much as there is a definite first place winner, some second place team in particular had some great ideas, and they focused on things like changes in trade agreements, the expansion of the Panama Canal, how commerce, you know, tenants that perhaps Todd should be looking at from Colombia, et cetera. They had very good ideas too. So my question is, how in your mind what was your selection criteria as you looked at these? How did Todd Watson say, well, that's number one, and that's number two, and that's number three? You know, ideas, presentation, what?
It's Goldilocks, right? And so, this one's too cold, this one's, you know, too hot, this one's just right. And it's funny, and I don't want to make too many just gross generalizations this way, everybody had incredible ideas. One team, I would say, had the slickest presentation, or at least written materials. One team had the greatest ideas. One team went so deep as to get into a Pan-Asian agreement that's going on. Let's see, hold on. I can tell you, they got deep. Okay, so great. But we got so deep. We were talking about how the flight of the African swallow affects the trade winds in the hurricane generation. So anyway, that's what I'm saying. This is fun. It was fun and great. This group had. You got to love it when a group starts with, here's our recommendations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's why. And every single piece of it, you and I can look at the financials and go, kind of. And I can tell you some stuff like clear height, right? You're right. It may not make sense, but if you're not there's like we said earlier, this is not a super creative industry that I'm in, industrial real estate, but there are certain innovations, and I'll tell you what, clear height is the quickest way to have an obsolete building. So it may not make financial sense, but you better build it 28, 30, 32 clear at this point, or you're just, you're going to have a problem. Go ahead.
So what ideas did you implement into the project, if any?
So we're still in design phase. We are designing the roads right now, which we didn't talk about. There are some things that they came up with that we were looking at that I think I'm going to consider more. I can't sit here and tell you this is the one thing. I think what opened my eyes was what they found to be important, and some of it just reinforces what you know a lot of times. I think the other thing they made me go back and look at was, I think security. It's interesting to hear them talk about security. I think security is one thing that we really are going back and looking at and saying, how can you make a building more secure? Because I think a lot of people say, you can put up a fence. What else makes a building secure? Do you go back and look at your windows? Do you go back and, so I think that was extremely useful. So that's, as deep.
Yeah, I have just a couple of quick questions. Who is going to lease this space for 2.75% commission?
No one in this room.
Number one. Your vacancy and collection loss is 290 basis points.
Not my pro forma. Not my pro forma.
I got them. You can address them here. I had a 6% commission built in.
Okay.
Unless
So it's 2.75 here.
If you do
I might need my reading glasses.
You have to pay, bro.
That's
for our
fee. Can't get back to
We do it for the love of the hunt.
That's for further education. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The vacancy's 5%, and you just demonstrated the market to be 7.98.
7.9.
Is this building that
it's, I'm sorry, yeah, so the commissions is, percentage of
cost.
total is 2.75.
Percentage of cost.
Okay.
Percentage of cost, cost. But the 1.3 million there, or 322 a foot, is a 6% on the $4.5 million.
He's happy now. He's happy.
Oh, okay.
But 5% vacancy in collection was because Richard wanted to know that.
That's in any analysis we run internally in any institution, anybody, right? You run some loss so that you're not fooling yourself at all times. Will it be occupied? No. So you've got to factor something in.
Okay.
Sir?
I would ask, if I could ask both of you, what would you do differently when we do this the next time? Are there suggestions that you would have for us?
I can answer.
I would be more interested in your feedback, or all
First
of
of
your
all,
feedback.
I wouldn't change a thing about the teams and the way they approached it. I've never felt like I was in worse shape. So when I graduated from college, I'm thinking to myself, I didn't have this together. I couldn't have put this. I've watched teams. We could barely build, a doghouse together in college. So first of all, very skilled folks we dealt with. I think it's more on our side. and how can we make sure that we have a challenge that is, and this is like when you're reviewing people too, that's measurable, that is clear, and that you can walk away with when you're judging them with criteria that are not objective, that are, I should say, that are objective maybe, and that you can weigh against any of these groups. And I'd say they did a great job. So it wasn't, we clarified, we had 1 or 2 clarification rounds, but the process on DCT's side, I think across the board it was excellent. Yes, Silver. Mr. Silver.
Thank you. To dovetail a little bit on what Neil was talking about, we spoke about the cooler freezers and the ceiling heights. How much thought was given as far as the predominant user in that market is logistics, and I'm getting requirements that they want more outside storage for the trailers, containers, so forth and so on. And the coverage ratio of this park, how much thought was given to maybe provide a smaller total size of square footage to give a competitive advantage to DCT, and maybe some of the other teams did. And we all know what the cost of land is in Airport West. Was any thought given as far as that particular feature is concerned?
Yeah, that was, I'm hoping to defer to Todd, because that was one of the calls I actually had with him. And I was saying, you know, I'm not an architect or laying, you know, doing the site planning, but I went through it a couple times, and I'm like, you know, there's probably some better ways to lay this out. And then he just went into their analysis, and they've looked at this 400 different ways. And at the end of the conversation of 6 pages of me writing, the site, the plan that's in place now is really what's working to maximize coverage.
You get a premium for cooler freezer, we all understand that. But perhaps you can also get a premium for the extra land over and above what your competitors have out in the market. So that might have been a bullet point on why not, that you want to think about.
I fully agree. I think our biggest issue is kind of what we're talking about when we set it up, is we didn't want to go that far. If we gave them site plan thought, then we could have. So we were trying to focus more on how how do we market this effectively, and who is the best groups to, who are the best groups to go after. So we tried to limit it maybe.
Yes, sir.
My question is to the presenters. You're in the real estate program. Where do each of you see yourselves in 5 years? What specifically do you want to be doing with your careers?
Working for God. Gotta grow. I'll work on that.
So I'm in my 3rd quarter of the program. I'll graduate at the end of June. I'm currently working as an intern analyst at JLL. I do mostly office market research, and I'm hoping to stay there for a little while and then eventually get into a more development side of things where I can work on picking out sites and sort of doing this exact thought process of what works on the site, what doesn't, financially, market, everything like that.
I actually graduated the program in December, so right now I'm actually still in the job search process right now. But in the next 5 years, I mean, something that this program really taught me is there's just so many avenues you can go in this industry. So I mean, right at this point, I'm just looking for a place where I can just continue to grow and grow my knowledge base and learn as much as I can, and really decide at that point.
Like he said, there's just so many things you can do. This is my 2nd term here in the program, and it's kind of the beginning of a career change for me. I just want to learn as much as I can right now with the program. Right now I'm taking a finance course, and I'm seeing different things, the cost to develop the building, what goes into it, the returns that you want. And I just want, in 5 years, I want to be more fluent with that and hopefully be able to, work with a company that does the financial feasibility of the real estate development business.
I have an accounting background, and I actually run an accounting department at Percacci Development. I've been doing that now 2 years, and I went through this program. I just graduated in December, and with the goal of coming out and being a developer. I'm still in the accounting department, but I hope that one day, the development side, will present itself. So
Wasn't SIOR the sponsor of this?
Yeah.
I would, my answer would have been, I aspire to be an SIOR. They didn't put up the 10 grand for the challenge.
All right. Any other final questions? Yes, sir.
John?
Refrigeration of the cooler ready. How ready is cooler ready? What were the criteria that you would put into the building to make it cooler ready? Basically freezer, refrigeration, et cetera.
It's a good question. We didn't go too much into it. We bid it out to one contractor, and the way they described it was there were two types of build outs. One is it's all a box in a box, so you start with your slab, your shell, and they come in and they put in metal plating that gets the right R value to keep it 35 degrees if you want to do refrigerator. And then if you actually want to do freezer, the jump is to $85 a foot, and you actually have to have a special floor slab to do that. But our third presenter, who was actually not here, he has a relative that develops cold storage spaces, so he knew that really well. But that was our thought, was you could have the vanilla shell and market it to tenants, and then once they express the interest, if they have the right credit background, you could sign the lease there and have the premium done and the build out done in a very short amount of time. And then when they leave, you can take it. You can strip it off. So it doesn't really, it doesn't have to be something built into the building. It's built inside.
Any other questions?
Is there a way to see the other presentations?
Absolutely, they are all on YouTube.
Awesome.
And if you actually go to YouTube and you just search MSRED and then team or SIOR, then it should pop up.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, Fred?
Sure.
I just want to make a little bit of a plug for the real estate school. And Fred, we've hired 4 different graduates from the program. Jessica Jolie, who's our most recent, I guess, just finished our Publix at Sheridan Street project on her own. And I want to tell you, the program puts these students out ready to go. And I commend the programming and Fred's efforts, and I commend the students. And I think it's one of the best programs that we've seen. And we're involved with a bunch of the other colleges. But right now, this has been the most productive program we've had. So I commend Fred and the real estate school.
If any of you want a direct link, just ask me or email Dr. Forgy. There's one thing that I wanted to say. To everybody in this room that went to the Gold Coast School of Real Estate, got a brokerage license, you realized almost immediately that the education taught you how to be legal in the state of Florida, but it didn't teach you how to broker in the state of Florida. And all due respect, the materials that any real estate school has to work with, the things that you guys see, the software programs, the spreadsheets, they're similar. If you look at the metrics that Todd has to deal with on a development, whether it's DCT or Flagler or Rockefeller or Terry Stiles, we all know what the dirt costs, we all know what the construction costs are, and they don't change much. The contractor doesn't care if he's selling his work to DCT or KTR. It means nothing to him. Does he get paid? That's what he cares about. Okay? So it's the stuff, and this is why I was so lucky to hook up with this guy. This was looked at from a whole different aspect. This was, how do we get more tenants? How do we get them faster? How do we market this differently in ways that our competition isn't marketing to? What kind of tenants are out there that aren't being served? So the students had a chance to think like a broker, like a developer. How do you make this happen to make money? Not what's your internal rate of return, what's your cost of funds. They're all the same. There's almost no difference. And Fred saw that right away. That was the angle right away. And I just looked at this. I think the students benefited. I think, Todd, I know how bright you are, but there are probably a couple things that, you don't see the forest for the trees. And SIOR is just thrilled to have participated in this. So, I want to thank Mr. Silver?
When the SIOR Board of Directors came up with this college challenge, Ted took it on, and I just want to say, because we've been watching this for months already, what an outstanding job Ted did to put this whole thing together. Unbelievable.
At this point, I wish we had everybody here, but we don't. Would you and Todd perhaps join me? Maybe Ed, you want to come up here? We've got some certificates for you guys, things you can put on the living room wall, maybe, you know, show mom and dad, or we'd really like to thank you for your involvement.
Thank
And Fred, I don't know what we're going to do with the rest of these.
I'll take care of it. So.
Okay. So. Alex, come on up. You I'm going to get in it too, but I really want these guys.
Yes, everybody.
Okay.
Might be better if you move over and you don't have the lines
thing,
across
that's
your
why-
Oh, okay. Let's move over a bit.
Or we can actually break Chuck out.
Don't worry, the free beer and wine are coming. Relax.
Oh,
We're
that's
almost
good.
there.
Thank you. Excellent. 1, 2. So move.
Okay.
Wait, one more.
Yeah.
I had to look at the flash. Thank you. I'm sorry, Alex.
There we go.
Okay, you're good.
Now that we're blind. Who else is here? I'm the first place team. Dylan? Dylan Siegel? Come on over. Come on, photo op for you. Let's go.
There's a broker they have.
Congratulations. I'll bring it in. Good stuff.
Yeah, you guys, great job. Please. Okay.
Perfect.
Whatever works.
1, 2, 3. Error 101.
On the top, there's a little thing, just make sure it's on green.
Got an error 101 here.
I believe it slammed it onto the ground.
Anybody got it?
Clever one.
You made it, Paul.
Let me see what you got.
That's back.
There we go.
There we go. We're back on track.
Okay, all right, here we go.
This hard.
1, 2, 3.
Outstanding. Okay, good? No, second?
Melissa and Daryl. If there's Daryl.
Daryl? Folks? Daryl Ballou?
Yep.
Hey, congratulations. Good to see you.
Face that way, Daryl.
You're a big guy.
I was going to say, we don't have
We're cutting 10 out here. It's okay.
We need to go.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, outstanding.
Ted looks like he's photobombed.
There she is. Alyssa Schachter. Alyssa, please. You're very welcome. This is easy. This one.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right. It's a lot better than Daryl's back. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay.
Yeah, could we just get everyone together real quick?
Sure.
Just real quick, all the award winners.
Absolutely.
And we'll do it real quick.
Go ahead, Jack. Yes.
And then we'll start the you want to hold the awards. Just hold the awards up. We'll get guys, here, face this way.
Okay, before you guys leave, the tickets that were handed out had a purpose. They are good for a beer or a glass of wine, and not to mention the light refreshments that are included with it. Paul Cauchy of the Realtors Commercial Alliance is our co-sponsor of this little networking event. Haven't spoken much about Paul. He's a Miami guy, so he ran late.
It's all right.
But A, thank you for co-sponsoring the networking event, Paul. B, Paul runs the Realtors Commercial Alliance, which has how many members?
Just over 1,700 members.
1,700 members. And we're considering giving him an award for having to listen to all 1,700 members. So Paul, thanks for co-sponsoring this. The event is in the Hall of Champions, which is kind of the...
Just going to go out here and you make a left, you can't miss it. I'll lead the first group. Follow me.
Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Good stuff. Yeah. Congratulations on graduating. Thank you. Very nice. Thanks for participating. We appreciate it. You guys on the street.
This guy was like, and the net result is
Go to Miami, and then you can go commercial or whatever. Good stuff. Yeah, take care. All right, good. Take care.
Great job. Thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely. Yeah, I told him
Adam, nice to see you. When's our next meeting at?
March 18th, we're meeting in Coral Springs. We're having a marketing session.
Okay.
At First Citizens Bank. High noon, 11:30, networking. I got a meeting at 11. Pictures, brochures, lunch.
It's like to do business training.
Right here at the school. But, well, you guys haven't set anything up for the 18th.
No. I'm gonna start that like tomorrow. I got everything finalized. I'm gonna start blasting that tomorrow.
I'm sticking around.
$10 or something for members, $20 for non-members. Support the institute, support the